Hey guys, so in this video I wanted to talk about some difficulties that I had when I first started working as a medical assistant. And that had to do with like the mindset of working as a CNA, because even through like medical assistant training and medical assistant school, I was still like, even while I was going to school, I was still working as a CNA through an agency. And so I think that what really like screwed with my mind was having this mindset of working as a CNA, and then once I finally started working as a medical assistant, having to transition from the CNA mindset, where like there are so many limitations on what CNAs are allowed to do, and there's so many differences between what CNAs are allowed to do and what medical assistants are allowed to do. So for example, like as a medical assistant, I can give medications, and the first time that one of the providers told me that I could give an injection, like an antibiotic injection, I was like, wait a second, like at first I was like, the nurse has to do that. And then I was like, oh wait, I'm a medical assistant now, I'm not a CNA. And I just think it's interesting, like if you've worked as a CNA for a long time and then you get into a role like this where you can do those things, it kind of throws you off. So I will tell you guys, like my first ever healthcare job was working as a CNA. And so I had worked as a CNA from 2016 until like 2021. And so that's quite a bit of time. And once I moved back to Michigan is when I actually took my first medical assistant job. Like I had been on interview after interview when I still lived in Indiana, but once I moved back to Michigan, that's when I finally was able to get a job at the hospital where I work now as a medical assistant. And I just thought it was so weird, like having to transition, like I said, from that CNA mindset of, you know, the nurse has to give all the medications. All you can do is really like take vitals and help people get into the room. And so like I was really thrown off because I was thinking, okay, so basically all I'm able to do is like room patients, take their vitals, and let people know that they're ready to go. But there is so much more that medical assistants are allowed to do. And like I said, the first time that a doctor told me to give somebody an antibiotic injection, I was like, oh my God, like I can't do this. You know, like where is the nurse? The nurse has to be doing all this. And it is such a mind fuck. Excuse my language, but it is. Like finally being able to do something for patients, because sometimes working in the nursing home, I felt completely helpless. I felt like there was nothing that I could do to help my patients. Like if my patients were in pain, I felt like I had to wait for the nurse to show up. And a lot of times there were certain nurses who were too busy listening to things on their earbuds or headphones or whatever, and they didn't want to like go and actually help patients who were requesting like pain medications or whatever else they might be requesting. Like the one thing that does irritate me though is like, obviously I'm not a provider. So I have had providers, like when I was working in urgent care on weekends, I have had providers get nasty with me where they're like, well, don't you know how to give somebody a nebulizer treatment, or don't you know how to start oxygen? But like, I literally am not allowed to do that unless the provider is like, okay, give this person a nebulizer treatment, or, start this person on 2 liters of oxygen, whatever. Like I actually have to have an order, even if it's just verbal, for me to be able to do that. So like it is definitely screwing with my mind in a bunch of different ways. I still sometimes have trouble transitioning from that CNA mindset to, okay, you're a medical assistant, you're allowed to do this, you're allowed to do this, but there are certain policies that like I have to follow that are like obviously hospital policy where it's like, okay, you can't do this unless this, and this happens, or you can't do this unless the provider tells you that you can. It's very like, I don't know, sometimes it can feel a little bit backwards, I guess, but hopefully that made sense. I feel like I just kind of screwed myself up and went backwards, and yeah. But anyways, yeah, I think if you're a CNA who's looking into becoming a medical assistant, just keep that in mind, that it will definitely be a big change when you finally do transition from a CNA to a medical assistant, because it does kind of open up a whole new realm of job responsibilities and things that you're allowed to do that you would never be allowed to do as a CNA, unless you had like additional certifications. So for example, CNAs can't just give medications unless they have like that medication aid training. Some states allow CNAs to, like in assisted livings, allow them to like hand medications to residents. When I was working in Indiana, the one assisted living allowed us to like give them the pill bottle, and they were allowed to take their pills out of the bottle, but we could not actually touch the medication because we were not like QMAs is what they're called in Indiana. Med techs they're called in some other states, but like here at the hospital as a medical assistant, I have all of the same job responsibilities as an LPN. And so it has definitely been interesting to see the difference between working as a CNA and working as a medical assistant here, where I work in a rural health clinic. And so, like I said, I have the exact same job responsibilities as an LPN does. Like, I can take critical lab results over the phone from lab. I give all of the same medications. I give all of the same vaccinations. I give all of the same injections. Like, I can do suture removal, I can do catheter removal, I can do everything that the LPNs are allowed to do in the clinic. So yeah, it is just very, very different. It is a different world, and I think that if you are looking to become a medical assistant, like I said, once you finally make that transition, it will get easier as time goes on, but initially it is very, very confusing, especially if you've worked as a CNA for a long time. I feel like if you haven't worked as a CNA for as long, it might not be as difficult for you, but it was definitely difficult for me because, like I said, that was my primary job from 2016 until I moved up here in 2021. So it was quite a while, and I got very used to like looking for the nurse every time a medication needed to be given, or like a patient or resident needed something that was like medical that I was not allowed to do because it wasn't like changing their brief or like getting them a glass of water or whatever. So anyways, that is it for today's video. I hope that made sense to you guys, because I feel like I kind of walked all over my words a few times. But anyways, I just thought that I would share. If you guys have any other questions or any topics you would like me to discuss further on my channel in the future, please let me know. I'd be glad to get something filmed for you. And with that being said, that's all I have for today. I will talk to you guys in my next video.